The visual novel is a pretty awesome genre, but I've always had one issue with the straight visual novel: the lack of a sense of accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying games like Ever 17 are bad because they don't satisfy my ego. I just like the idea of overcoming a challenge and beating a game, rather than just finishing it. Eventually. And that's why I love 999, because it throws in challenging puzzles to keep my mind moving while satisfying my massive ego. Anyway, while exploring the DS library for more games like 999, I came across Trace Memory, a 2005 visual novel and adventure puzzle game. Does the early DS title hold out against the big shots, or should Trace Memory be forgotten? Although the game does some important things right, the devil is in the details, as a couple of major flaws hold this game back from being more than just another passable DS title. Trace Memory follows Ashley Robbins, an orphan 13-year-old girl who, on her birthday, gets a call from her apparently deceased dad, telling her to come to a supposedly haunted island, properly called Blood Edward Island, to meet her after being away for 10 years. Yeah, she goes alone with her aunt to find her father, who's apparently doing research on an abandoned island for a new scientific theory involving memory. Sounds legit! He also sends her something called a DTS, which looks just like a regular DS, yet Ashley claims that this is a one-of-a-kind piece of hardware. Bullshit! It sold over 153 million units, idiot! Nintendo probably sued her sorry ass after. Anyway, they arrive on the island, but of course the dad's not there, and then Jessica, the aunt, goes out to look, and she gets lost. So it's up to Ashley to find out where her lost aunt wait a second. The ship's captain's right there! And he's gonna let the 13-year-old girl go in there alone because he's too scared? Asshole. So it's up to Ashley to uncover the secrets of the island's bloody history, her parents' disappearance, and her own clouded memory. Since this is partially a visual novel, I'll go over the characters before I discuss the entire story, without major spoilers of course. Ashley is our protagonist, and she's got white hair for no apparent reason. Seriously, why the hell would she have white hair when neither of her parents have white hair? And don't bother with the genetics lesson down in the comments, cause you won't convince me why this makes sense. I digress. She's pretty strong-willed, yet a vulnerable teenage girl, being actually somewhat realistic. Though not fully realistic. She doesn't obsess over Justin Bieber. Anyway, she's good, but kind of a forgettable protagonist. There's Jessica, aka the character who's there so older guys can gawk at a female other than the one that would send them to jail. Since there are so few characters in this mystery game, I won't say anything about her overall role in the story, except I was disappointed. Vague, but I'll elaborate later. Finally, there's D. And this I will spoil because it happens literally within the first hour. D is a ghost. Yep, but he's a friendly ghost who only the pure of heart can see. He's a young boy with some connection to the mansion, but he's lost his memories somehow, and Ashley agrees to help him out, cause why the hell wouldn't you help a ghost? What if a ghost owed you one? Anyway, again, not a bad character, just not particularly noteworthy. A theme you'll see a lot in this game. And that's about it in terms of characters, unless you count that pussy of a captain. There's obviously a couple more, but I can't reveal them unless I spoil things, so I won't. In terms of overall story, despite my bitterness over the lack of characters, the plot and writing were pretty damn good. The story builds in suspense as you get small pieces of this overall mystery as you go through the mansion, getting a sense of the characters you never see from objects and writings about them in a manner similar to Myst. You soon learn the answers to most of the questions, but I love how they left you to interpret some things yourself. I did like how the game took some darker turns and had a few plot twists, but something that did disappoint me was how tame the game was overall. Notice that I never referred to this title as a horror game. Keep in mind that this is from the perspective of somebody past their teens, teenagers being the intended audience for this title, but I felt that this game really didn't utilize the creepy atmosphere to the fullest. You start the game on a beautiful sunny day, which hardly builds up a place called Blood Edward Island, the mansion is well lit, and the music is rarely genuinely creepy. This is more of a nitpick, but I can't help but feel that this is the Diet Pepsi version of a horror-like mystery game. But again, it definitely does have its darker moments. Overall, despite a few noticeable plot holes involving the professor's overall methods, the narrative of Trace Memory is pretty damn good and kept me playing. However, now we have to talk about gameplay, and unfortunately, this is where the game starts to falter. Firstly, the game is only about 5 hours long, which is pretty sad. But I know what you're saying. Quality over quantity is better, right? Well, I'm sorry to say that the gameplay isn't too hot either. You control Ashley in an overhead view, exploring areas that you can zoom into to analyze things in detail. And I say analyze because Ashley, being, well, a 13-year-old girl, offers ridiculously basic information that you can tell by looking at the same damn thing. Like here. Thank you, Captain Obvious. But unfortunately, you pretty much have to observe every detail to get the good ending, which is a pain in the ass. Like any other adventure game, you can pick up items and apply them to the world around you, and that's all fine and good, but the issue I really have is with the actual puzzles. Firstly, there aren't that many of them, and most of the challenge in the game is navigating the rooms and figuring out where you have to go. Yeah, this can turn into a where the hell do I go kind of game. Secondly, while half of the puzzles make great use of the unique aspects of the DS hardware and are very fun to solve, the other half are puzzles that barely count as puzzles. For example, there are puzzles where you have to turn the wheel, tap the screen. Oh, I can barely contain my excitement. In addition, the interface is kind of a pain in the ass. You have to be spot on when observing items, and I was playing on a 3DS XL, so I can't imagine trying to pinpoint things on a regular one. The game includes some pretty cool features like being able to take pictures, overlapping images, but you only use these features a couple of times, which seems like wasted potential. Okay, one last problem. I know that this is a problem in a lot of games, but I have to point it out here. I hate it when you can't do something in a game until the game tells you to. What I mean is, there's one point in the game where I find a roll of film, but the game won't let me pick it up until I need it plot-wise. So, once I do figure out I need it, I have to backtrack all the way to the beginning of the mansion and find it again, when she could have just put it in her pocket at the start and saved me 10 minutes. So, the gameplay is nothing spectacular, and it was a pretty easy game for me, only stumping me maybe once. There's still a sense of accomplishment, but I was just hoping for a stronger gameplay. On the other hand, this was an early DS title concerned with showing off the hardware, but it just seems like a waste of potential nowadays. In terms of graphics, for 2005, the DS game wasn't that bad. Character designs and animations were stylish, locations were well designed, and it was interesting to explore. They created a really mysterious and isolated atmosphere that, in my opinion, is not really scary, but it has its moments. The music was also alright. There was nothing memorable or iPod worthy, but it set the mood, and it wasn't a slouch either. In conclusion, it's pretty hard to recommend Trace Memory. The story was pretty good, but the gameplay was a little too simple and uncreative considering the very short length, while everything else was just okay. Be aware that I have no nostalgic ties to this game as many other people may, but as an older gamer, there's an irony in the fact that Trace Memory is pretty forgettable. I played through it in a couple of days and enjoyed it despite its shortcomings. But if you're looking for 999, you definitely won't find it here. I recommend this game only to young teenage gamers, or if you're looking for a simple adventure game that won't take a lot of time. In any case, thanks for watching.